In this premiere episode of Plot Holes, we look at Game of Thrones. For 8 seasons, it's been relatively plot hole free and has excelled at guarding the integrity of character motivations while carefully justifying their actions. And yes, I am aware of the major plot hole of last season, Gendry running the Eastwatch, the Raven getting the Dragonstone, and Daenerys showing up with her dragons just in time to save the zombie kidnappers. Aside from that example, Game of Thrones has been second only to Breaking Bad in maintaining its interweaving web of logic. We know why Littlefinger told Catelyn the Valyrian steel dagger belonged to Tyrion, because it would lead to his capture, which would lead to House Stark and Lannister fighting, which would lead to a war, which would give Littlefinger an opportunity
Chaos is a ladder
to sit on the Iron Throne. And we know why after Ned had discovered Cersei and Jaime's secret, he gave her a chance to escape King's Landing.
You and your children, I will not have their blood on my hands.
But we don't know why, in Season 7, Episode 7, Tyrion didn't ask Cersei for a supply of wildfire. We all remember the episode. For the first time in the history of the show, all the power players came together in one location. Their objective? Convince Cersei to commit her army to fighting the Great War in the North. The way to accomplish that? Show her the one true enemy. So after the ice zombie freaks her out, Jon Snow explains
We can destroy them with Dragonglass,
which they have plenty of, because earlier in the season, Tyrion helped convince Daenerys to allow the Northerners to mine for it. Option 2.
we can destroy them by burning them.
This would be a good time to speak up and say, which is why we would also like you to provide us with wildfire. How much would you like? All of it. But maybe Tyrion got distracted by the bullying of Euron Greyjoy. Maybe he got overwhelmed by the emotional reunion with Podrick. Or maybe he's thinking about how he can get Bronn to join Team Targaryen. Now you might be saying, dude, there is no more wildfire. Cersei used it all when she blew up the Sept of Baelor in Season 6, Episode 10. I thought that too. But then I remembered this moment where Tyrion explains to Daenerys her father's plan to destroy King's Landing.
He had caches of wildfire hidden under the Red Keep, the guild halls, the Sept of Baelor, all the major thoroughfares.
A fact Jaime revealed to Brienne 3 seasons earlier.
So he had his pyromancer place caches of wildfire all over the city, beneath the Sept of Baelor, and the slums of Fleet Bottom, under houses, stables, taverns, even beneath the Red Keep itself.
That means there's a lot more wildfire hidden below the city. Now you might be saying, dude, they used most of it destroying Stannis' ships in Season 2, Episode 9. I thought that also, but then I remembered this moment in Season 2, Episode 5.
Our present count stands at 7,811. Enough to burn Stannis Baratheon's fleet and armies both.
So now we have to ask, how many troops does Stannis have? If we go back to Season 2, Episode 3...
I have 100,000 men at my command, all the might of the Stormlands and the Reach.
All of who became loyal to Stannis after his shadow baby killed Renly. That number is important because if we go back to the awkward medieval 10-year high school reunion that everyone's having, Daenerys says,
I saw them all.
And Jaime asks,
How many?
100,000 at least.
So if Tyrion used all 7,811 jars to fill that ship up with wildfire that blew up Stannis' fleet, there's still the wildfire the Mad King left under the Red Keep, and a handful of other places, because Cersei only used the supply that was under the Sept of Baelor. So if 7,811 jars of wildfire were enough to destroy Stannis' army, which is roughly the size of the Night King's army, that means that there's more than enough remaining wildfire to aid in the battle and make a huge difference against the army of the dead at Winterfell. So why has Tyrion forgotten about the rest of the wildfire? I want to know what you think, Internet. Leave your reactions in the comments section below. My answer to this question is a sad one, because if it's the correct answer, it means the writers have stopped letting the characters create the story and instead are forcing them into predetermined situations. For some reason, it seems like the wildfire has to stay in King's Landing, because it's going to be used there in the future at some point. It seems like Cersei is being set up to be the Mad Queen. This might lead to a moment when she's realized she's lost the battle for King's Landing, and she'll fatefully end up echoing the words of the Mad King by saying... In Season 7, Episode 7, she tells Tyrion,
I don't care about checking my worst impulses. I don't care about making the world a better place. Hang the world.
This might lead Jaime to repeat his personal history by killing another mad ruler. Or to make things interesting, and honor the history of Game of Thrones' unpredictable story twists, Cersei ends up being the one who kills Jaime, then destroys King's Landing. The frustration of the Wildfire question is a story, plot, character situation Game of Thrones has impressively avoided for most of its 8 seasons. In the past, when illogic presented itself, the show would address it and get it out of the way. Remember in Season 2, Episode 5, when the Faceless Man gives Arya the power to say 3 names, and those people will soon be dead?
You stole 3 deaths from the Red God. We have to give them back.
What was the first thing we all thought when we heard this? Well, the writers addressed that by having Gendry ask this exact question in Season 3, Episode 2.
Just explain it to me. He offered to kill any 3 people you wanted. All you had to do was give him the names. You could have picked King Joffrey. You could have ended the war.
While she doesn't directly answer, we understand why she didn't give the obvious names. Because she has her list, and she wants to be the one to cross off the names.
Joffrey, Cersei, Aiden Payne, the Hound.
But for some reason, in Seasons 7 and 8, when everyone is frantically preparing for the battle against the Night King, no one has even brought the idea of Wildfire to the table. Why hasn't Sir Davos mentioned it? He was at Blackwater. You know, the battle where his son died, from Wildfire. In Season 7, Episode 2, while trying to convince Jon Snow to go meet with Daenerys, he forgets this, even while he's talking about fire.
Fire kills whites, you told me. What breathes fire?
What about Lord Varys? He knows all the secrets of King's Landing. He even tells Tyrion, after the Battle of Blackwater,
There are many who know that without you, this city faced certain defeat. The histories won't mention you, that we will not forget.
Until that is, it's convenient to forget so the plot can move along in a predetermined direction. What about Melisandre? You know, the character who's always staring into fire? She helped bring Daenerys and Jon together.
Summon Jon Snow. Let him stand before you and tell you the things that have happened to him.
Maybe she's the one who could have mentioned something about Wildfire. Or maybe the real answer is that Wildfire is boring. We've been there already. While new and exciting doesn't win wars, it does prevent audience boredom. We want something new, something that could lead to cool visuals and hand-to-hand combat. We want Blackwater, Battle for the Wall, Hardhome, Battle of the Bastards, and Operation Zombie Kidnap on crack. That crack is Dragonglass.
Glass? Who gives a shit about glass?
If this were a video game and you had to choose between giving your avatar a spear made of Dragonglass or a pot of Wildfire, which would you choose? Could you imagine if they had brought hundreds of barrels of Wildfire to Winterfell? They could soak the ground with it, just like Braveheart. Then when the time was right, give a signal. You know, just like Tyrion did, and have some archers light up the ground that the White Walkers are standing on. Or even better, just have Jon and Daenerys get on their dragons and ignite it with some fire breath. I mean, if the wildlings could set an entire forest on fire by rubbing sticks together, I'm pretty sure 3 armies and 2 dragons could use Wildfire to torch the entire field at Winterfell. It just seems so strange that no one has even mentioned Wildfire in the last 2 seasons. If its presence would change the Battle of Winterfell too much, and make it less exciting, which is what would have happened because they would have used it here, there, definitely here. She could have used it, they could have used it. Pour Wildfire on them. Ice zombie problem solved. So just acknowledge it at the beginning of Season 7, and remove it as a logical option. Have a character like Varys report some bad news. My birds sing a grave song. All the Wildfire is gone. And unfortunately, so is Game of Thrones' track record of story and character integrity. Not even the Lord of Light will be able to bring that back.
Hensindroro onius, en gir persis, en morchot gleison.